Hello, everybody. My name is Kenton DeYoung, and I'm sitting here with my co-host Dylan Furman,
Hey.
and this is Unsolved Canadian Mysteries. So, Dylan, how you been?
I've been great, Kenton. How have you been?
Been good. I've been good. So this is a Patreon exclusive episode.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Josh, thanks for subscribing to us. By the time this one comes out, maybe we'll have more. So, Josh,
Maybe it'll be Josh
and Plus,
and
Josh Plus.
Jash.
Sure. Who knows? Who knows? But Josh for sure, hopefully.
Yeah, Josh. Yeah, well, yeah.
Because he doesn't like us anymore.
Yeah, he's like, whoa. Their paid stuff is garbage. No, I think most of our our best stories, I think, because the demon one was top notch.
Yes.
Like, that's top 3 for me. But the last one is also top 3 for me.
That was good.
See, that's what I like. That two of my 3 favorites have happened in the last 5 episodes. So I like that.
Okay.
I don't think he'll ever be able to beat the second episode though for me because that story's just crazy.
The headless.
The headless.
Yeah. Okay. That one. The Handy National Park one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one, and I kind of wish we could redo it with our new editing and our new style.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
It's okay.
Solid story.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe we'll return. Maybe there's more information.
Yeah. Sure. Maybe we'll make a trip up there sometime. And
How have you been?
I'm okay. Been good.
Decent.
Decent. You know, the weather's been kind of cloudy and crappy, and
Yeah.
it's okay. Summer vacation's winding down. Not that we celebrate that anymore because we're adults.
Right. Because we work.
Yeah. I don't know. Otherwise, it's been good. It's been
Cool.
good. So our last, we'll probably talk about 2 in the next podcast, but the last one we talked about was the one up with Michael Oros.
Yeah.
Up in the Yukon, northern BC, Alaska area.
Yeah.
And we talked in that one that in this one, we're going to be talking about the Mad Trapper Rat River.
Right.
Right. Because I didn't want to cover it, but I thought for Josh and everyone else.
For Josh.
For Josh. And anyone else describing, we can talk about it for them. But actually, that one got a lot of feedback, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in the next podcast too, so the rest of people can hear it.
Right.
But we got some people commenting, some messages from people, other recommendations of stories. So
Very cool.
good to see some positive feedback.
Awesome. And now we have a producer.
Yep.
So now we're going to get more research, more editing, all good.
Yeah. Yep. Now we're a group of 3.
Yeah. Thank you, Christina.
So today we're talking about the Mad Trapper of Rat River. His name is Albert Johnson. It's a pretty epic story, of course, because it's been investigated for over 90 years now. People have been looking into it. So there's a lot of information online about a lot of kind of mixed things too.
And it's still a mystery.
Still unsolved.
Wow.
Unsolved. And actually, I'm surprised they want us to talk about it because we've got quite a few people telling us to talk about this one. It's been talked about so much over the past 90 years, right? Every other year is a new article, a new book, a new movie. It's been...
It's like the story of Oak Island. It's just
Yes.
but this time we're digging deeper.
Right, yeah. Josh and whoever else is hearing this have probably heard the story before, but this is our version of it.
Perfect.
Yeah. So Albert Johnson, which we're going to call him that for now. Some podcasters or people don't want to call him that because that's not his real name, but he identified himself as Albert Johnson in the story, so we're going to call him Albert Johnson.
Okay.
So Albert Johnson arrived in Fort McPherson on July 9th, 1931.
Okay.
He came up the Peel River on what apparently was a handmade crude log raft.
Sorry, where is this?
So it's up in northern Yukon.
Okay.
So,
All the crazy stuff happens up there.
I'm sorry, Northwest Territories. Still crazy stuff.
Same shit.
Yeah. At that point, it's you're just like when I was up. So when I was in Dawson City, if you just follow the Dempster Highway up, it cuts into Yukon, and then you're at the Arctic Ocean. So we're in the area where talking a few hundred kilometers away from the border up there in the Arctic. It's probably an arbitrary border at that point.
Right.
It's not like here where we have a distinct border between Saskatchewan and Alberta or in the States. It's pretty...
It's tundra.
Yeah. There's some mountainous regions, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, pretty much tundra. Ice, cold, desolate. Yeah. So Fort McPherson. And I actually wondered, what's the population of Fort McPherson these days, right? It's 800 people.
Really?
So you think in 1931, I think it would be 300, 400 people.
Yeah.
So not very many, and hasn't grown very much.
Right.
So small place, way up north. But it's kind of the entrance into the Arctic. A lot of people come in through Fort McPherson.
Oh, okay. Via plane?
Via the plane later, but mostly by river at this point.
I see.
So that's how Johnson came, and he came on the Peel River.
Okay.
So he comes in, and they describe him as being about 5'9", 175 pounds, kind of well built. Apparently has a bit of a Scandinavian accent. Okay. About 35 to 40 years old. So one of the things people also say about Johnson is that he's generally pretty unfriendly.
All the trappers are.
Yeah. It's not you're up there for a reason. You don't go up there because you love people, Like, oh, I sure love crowds. I'm gonna go to the Arctic. So he's generally unfriendly, and this gets the attention of the local people because generally when someone goes up north, they don't have to be super friendly, but like being nice keeps you alive, right up there, right? And helps others stay alive. So him being up there and being generally unfriendly got the attention of an archbishop who was there as well. The archbishop then reached out to Inspector Alexander Emis, then contacted Constable Newt Millens and asked Millens to go investigate this man. So it's kind of a weird reason to investigate someone just being unfriendly, right? But the reason is because it's the RCMP's responsibility to identify newcomers to the area and make sure they can handle the winter. Otherwise, it's like suicide, right? So make sure they can handle it, make sure everything's okay before letting them go off into the tundra. So it takes Millens, he has to travel about 80 kilometers to get to Fort McPherson. It takes him a couple days, and he gets there and he runs into Johnson, who at this point is buying a gun. But that's normal, right? It's not like when other stores people buy guns for nefarious reasons. This time he's buying a gun for, going out in the Arctic, right?
Right.
And while he's in the shop, he flashes apparently a wad of money. Now, I've heard from some podcasts that he had thousands of dollars on him, but I couldn't find the exact amount like on any articles I read or Wikipedia or stuff like that. Actually, the Wikipedia page has a lot of issues, but I won't get into that. So all I know, he has thousands of dollars. Maybe someone else will say, oh, he had 4,000, 6,000, but lots of money, especially in the 30s, especially back then with that kind of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, he had a lot of stacks of cash on him. So he buys this rifle, and then he's leaving, and he runs into Millens. And Millens wants to know a bit about who he is. What you doing up here? What are your plans, right? So Johnson says that he spent last winter in the prairies, kind of open-ended, where in the prairies, but is in the prairies. And then he took the Mackenzie River up to Fort McPherson. And Millens knows, because he's done a little bit of research, that that's not true. He came on the Peel River. So he's already kind of questioning this guy, like, you're already giving me...
He's already lying.
Yeah, and that's when he says his name is Albert Johnson.
Okay.
So that's the name we're going to go with, but when we get to the end, we'll talk about maybe he's not actually Albert Johnson. But he tells Millens his name is Albert Johnson, and so that's who he is. Millens should have gone through his bag and make sure he had the required things to go out there, but he didn't do that, and he got reprimanded for it later, but it wasn't a big deal.
You have one job.
Yeah, right? But he also asked Johnson if you have a trapping license. And Johnson said, no, I don't. He said, well, if you're going to trap, you will want to get one. Okay? So Millens leaves, his job is done, and Johnson's in the Fort McPherson for a little bit longer. A couple days later, he buys a canoe and he heads out on the river. So he's going down, I don't know exactly how the rivers work out, but I think it goes, you got the Peel River, and then I think it veers off to the Rat River, and he goes onto the Rat River. And he goes about 19 kilometers onto the Rat River, and then he stops. He sees, apparently, the articles reading said that the water started to freeze, but it was July, so I don't think so. I think he just found a nice spot. Because I was up there in September, and things were chilly, but things weren't freezing yet, so there's no way things were freezing in July. Right? Although, granted, he's a little further north than I was, but still, it wouldn't be freezing in July. So he pulled over his boat.
Pulled over to the side, signaled.
Yeah, of course, right? Docked his canoe, whatever, and then he set up camp. Ended up building a bit of a cabin out kind of into the woods.
That'd be so much fun.
Oh, I know. It's being up there by yourself.
Yeah, and just actually having to figure out how to build a cabin.
Yeah, right. And apparently another podcast I listened to said that he built it very well, and that the wood had frozen in the soil. So it was almost like concrete because it's so sturdy. Pretty cool. Yeah, not like a flimsy old cabin, but it was a nice log.
Yeah,
solid
a bunker.
Cabin. Yeah, exactly. So while he's up there too, he starts trapping. Of course, he's not supposed to, but he is, and he messes with the trap lines belonging to some of the indigenous people in the area.
What a dick.
Yeah, he does this in July. Come December, this messing of the trap lines is causing problems for the local indigenous people. And on Christmas Day, for whatever reason, it was Christmas Day, one of the trappers, came into the RCMP and told them what's going on. And they talked to Constable Millens, and they kind of identified who this man is, gave a description of him, where it was, and Millen's was like, oh, that's Albert Johnson. I'm going to talk to him about this. Thinking like, oh, you know, he probably didn't get a license, or he probably doesn't know what he's doing because he's a new guy, right? Although he's been up there for 5 months now.
Nice. My grandpa was a trapper.
Was he?
Yeah.
Where do you trap?
Like around Wilcox.
Okay, yeah. So the next day, Millens gets Constable King and Constable Bernard to go by dog sled to go find Johnson. So the reasoning was to see if he was responsible for tampering with the traps and to see if he had a license, because they weren't sure about that either because he didn't originally.
I see.
But this is a routine call. Like, they often get like a complaint about someone messing with the trap lines, go see what's going on, right? Because it be a person, is it's the goof, right? What's going on here? So it's a routine call. It took them 2 days to get to the cabin. The first day they stopped in Fort McPherson, and the second day they just camped outside. But this is like December 28th, okay? And it's cold, right? It's like, at this point, it's minus 34 Celsius. So they're camping out in the frigid cold, right? Now, I imagine in my head, like, thinking of camping outside, I think it's laying on the ground with a nice pillow or a blanket or whatever, but they're probably in like insulated tents. Like, it's probably quite a production because it's so freaking cold out.
Right.
Then the next day they get to the cabin and they approach the cabin, and King calls out. They get to us like, hey, I'm Constable King, and they can see someone's home because there's a smoke coming out the chimney.
Right.
And he says, I'm Constable King, I'm wondering if I can talk to you about something. No response. He says, we got complaints, you're messing with the trap lines. We got complaints, you might not have a license. Just want to talk to you about this. No response. But he sees Johnson kind of peek out the window behind a burlap sack.
That's not a good sign.
So he knows he's in there, right?
Burlap sacks always mean crazy.
So King tries a couple more times to convince Johnson to talk to them. It doesn't really work out. So they decide instead they're going to head back to the community of Aklavik and get a search warrant. It's a 130-kilometer trip back to Aklavik. It takes them a couple days.
Yeah. Sure. What year is this again?
1931. Get to Aklavik and they talk to Inspector Eames and discuss what's going on with Johnson and ask for a search warrant, and it's granted. Then them and 2 more officers head back from Aklavik, going back to Johnson's cabin. And they're going by dog sled. But before they leave, Inspector Eames tells them, you should probably bring some guns with you. This guy might be trouble. So they get back to the cabin a couple days later. So King walks up to the cabin and says who he is again, why he's there, and that they have a search warrant to investigate, enter the building. And instead of responding with words, Johnson responds with gunfire. Hits King right in the chest, bang, and knocks him down.
Ouch.
So another officer then runs up and has cover for gunfire to get King out of the area, and they bring him to safety, and they see that King's been shot in the chest and he's not doing too good. He's losing a lot of blood.
Oh yeah, and they're so far away, like he's dead.
Yeah, right. It's cold, right?
Yeah.
They decide they have to get in the hospital, or he's going to die here on the snow. So they get him on a dog sled, and they go for 20 hours on a dog sled across.
Those dogs died.
Oh yeah.
After that,
they were tired.
Oh my god.
I can't even imagine 20 hours in a car.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Like, that's a long
But I
trip.
couldn't imagine. I guess so. Like, if your body's cold, you're gonna lose blood a lot slower.
I think so. Yeah.
So that's fine. But still, 20 hours after getting shot in the chest. I don't even know what he got shot in the chest with, but
I think I'm sure it says somewhere, but I didn't write down. I'm pretty sure it was a rifle.
yeah,
I don't know my guns, but is 30 a rifle?
yeah,
Okay, great.
that's bad then.
Okay.
Yeah, if you said 22, I'm like, okay, maybe.
I think it was a 30 because it comes up a couple more times. That was the gun he had. He had a couple, but that was the one that came up a lot. So they get to Aklavik, and they get him to a hospital, and they get him to surgery right away. They open up, and they see that he was shot in the chest, but just an inch away from his heart. So he was bleeding a lot, but they were able to save him, and he would recover. So
Wow.
I mean, it's amazing.
What are the odds of that
right?
happening?
Yeah, like, it's a desperate situation. You get shot in the heart in the middle of the Arctic, right? 20-hour dog sled ride back, and they're like, missed you by an inch. You're all good. When I was doing research and reading the Wikipedia article, it then says later that King gets shot again by Johnson. And I'm like, there's no way King got shot twice by this guy. Like, he wouldn't have recovered, gone back on the field, and got shot again. So I might go on Wikipedia and edit that and change it, because I'm like, every other source doesn't say King got shot a second time.
Yeah.
So, to my understanding of my research, this is the only time King got shot in the story.
Well, thank you for doing that research, Anthony.
For anyone who's done reading this on Wikipedia and they're like, "Oh, he made a mistake," I don't think King got shot twice.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially like what's the time frame of all this, right? Like,
Yeah.
back then, like how long does it take you to recover getting shot in the chest?
Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah, this happened when they got back to Cleveland. It was January 1st,
Yeah.
New Year's Day. And this whole thing ends kind of in the middle of February.
Yeah, no way.
No.
Even now, if you're
No.
getting shot in the chest, you're out for months.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, no, I do not think King got shot at the end of the whole thing. However, because he shot a police officer, now Johnson has a red mark on him, right?
Right.
He has a what's it like?
Oh, a red herring.
Not a red.
No, I'm kidding. A bullseye.
Bullseye. Thank you. Yeah, he has a bullseye on him, right? Now he's.
You're about to go. Yeah. Oh no.
No.
Not a fish.
So now Inspector Eames makes a search party. 17 men. I think 2 of them are volunteers. One of them is a guide. 42 sled dogs. They're going out to deal with this guy. On the way there, they stop at Arthur Blake's Husky River Trading Post. They pick up 2 more men and 20 pounds of dynamite.
Say that 3 times fast.
No, I can't. I can't even say it once. So then them and the 2 more men and the dynamite all go towards Johnson's cabin. They picked up a guide at the trading post, and the guy was supposed to lead them there, but the guide got lost, and they lost a day trying to figure out where they were and getting back on the right path. So it took them collectively 3 days to get there, as opposed to 2 days it should have took them. But in those 2 days, I'm not sure if Johnson saw them or Johnson knew they were coming. That night they stopped, camped, and the next day they're going to go approach Johnson's cabin. But as they were already approaching it, Johnson started firing. He already knew they were there.
Wow.
So they start firing back. It's going back and forth, but they're at a disadvantage here because they're outside in like minus 40 temperatures. They've been going out. They're all on the road for 3 days already. They're hungry. They're cold. They're tired. Johnson's inside, warm, fed, right, with his gun.
And he's got cover.
Oh yeah, yeah. Right. Also, they are dealing with the fact there are 42 dogs who are a little bit scared with all this gunfire going on. Right? So someone has to stay there to help with the dogs and calm them down and everything. You can't have your motor transportation running away in the tundra, right?
Dude.
So this gunfight goes on for a while, and they decide, I think the second day of it, they're going to start using the dynamite.
Oh, dope.
So they get the dynamite out, but it's frozen. It froze in the cold. So they have to put it inside their jackets to warm the dynamite up.
That's reassuring.
Right? Like, don't get hit or else.
Yeah. Oh my God. Could you imagine you're trying to warm it up and he hits you right there?
So they warm the dynamite, they light it, they throw it at the cabin. But as you said, it's like a fortress, right?
Yeah.
It bounces off the cabin walls, cabin roof, into the bush, into the snow, and blows up.
Oh my God. I hope they brought more than one.
They brought 20 pounds of dynamite.
That's probably enough.
Yeah. So they cut us a couple times. There's quite a little craters around his cabin now, right? This isn't working. So I believe it's Inspector Eames then puts a bunch of them together the next night, lights them, throws them, lands on the roof of the cabin, blows up. There goes the roof, there goes the wall.
Dope.
But Johnson keeps firing. I heard on one podcast that Eames had crawled on top of it and put the dynamite there.
Yeah.
And then he had saw Johnson, or when he jumped off, he saw Johnson when the effort blew up. But I don't think so. I think he threw it, it landed, and it actually blew up there. So that makes more sense to me.
Yeah, there's no... I don't think... What's your logical thought? Like, oh, I'll go place this up there. Like,
yeah,
you've got enough dynamite. Just keep on throwing. Yeah.
And there's constant gunfire.
Yeah.
You don't want to approach the cabin after King's already been shot approaching the cabin, right? So
I like how you're correcting the story with logic.
I've done a few versions of this where I'm like, I don't know about that part.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure he threw the dynamite.
Makes sense.
So, but Johnson kept firing, right? So at this point, they wasted 20 pounds of dynamite, and I've read 700 rounds of ammunition on this house.
700 rounds of ammunition.
Yeah. This has gone down for a couple days.
Unreal.
Yeah, and Johnson's still firing. He doesn't seem too perturbed by this. So they decide to head back to a Clevevac to reassess and figure out what to do next.
Such... Oh my God, could you imagine being like, this sucks? Like if you're the one guy that went out there both times.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They arrived back in Clevevac on January 12th, 1932. This whole ordeal from when they left Clevevac to when they got back took 9 days. And they accomplished nothing.
It's just wasting resources.
From getting lost out there to fighting a gunfight to coming back, nothing was
But
solved.
no casualties.
That was good. Yeah, no casualties.
That dynamite probably messed up his house.
Yes. Yeah, his house got messed up.
So he's probably like, well, if he built it, I guess he can repair it.
Well, so 2 days later, they send out 2 people to go and survey the property to make sure, if he's still around, what's he doing, right? Not to engage, but just to monitor. And when on the way there, they get stopped by a blizzard. Right? It took them 3 days to get there. By the time they get there, house is empty. Johnson's taken off. He's gone.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, well, if someone's bringing dynamite to deal with you, like,
Yeah, your wall's gone, your house, it's in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point in staying there because it's not gonna be any warmer than it's out in the bush, right?
no matter how mad you are, like the law has more resources usually.
Yes.
I wonder if this is where they got the idea for Rambo.
Maybe. I could see it, but Rambo's a little more, isn't it? He's in the Vietnam War or something like that.
No, it's like he just got back, and then
Oh.
the cops like basically disrespect him,
Okay, yeah.
and then they think he's crazy. I honestly haven't seen him forever, but then yeah, he's like out in the forest there, and all the county cops are trying
That's
to get him, and he's just killing people
That's
left
right.
and right.
I knew he was in the woods,
Yeah,
and he has a really long knife.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. For some reason, I thought that was in like Korea or Vietnam. That's right. It's in the
I
United
think he
States.
just comes back
That's right.
or something.
Yeah,
He's like some special.
that's a good movie.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I haven't seen him forever. I'm more of a Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. Terminator.
Terminator, Commando, Predator. Sorry.
It's okay. So, back to the story. Two of them go out to monitor the cabin, and Johnson's gone. Eames then sets up a second group of people to go out and search for the party. Another formal group. They arrive at the cabin, find it empty as they were told, and then begin the search. It takes them about 5 days to kind of get going on this, to figure out where he went from here. Because what he did was he would left the cabin, and they circled back and made like some false leads in the meantime. So they would get there, they follow one set of tracks for 5 hours or 4 hours, and come back. Oh, it's exactly where we started, right? So he's just toying with them, but he had so much ahead. He was so far ahead, right? So 5 days into this thing, they keep going in circles. They're not making any progress. They decide then to head back to Cleveland and regroup again. This is like the fourth time they've had to go back and regroup about this whole situation. It was in this time period where they're going back and figuring out what to do that this story starts making headlines. That there's this man out there, and the reporter calls him the Mad Trapper. This man out there who shot a police officer who's they've been chasing him for days. And now the pressure's on the RCMP to deal with this guy, because the public is starting to get concerned that, if this man can elude the RCMP for all this time, he might come into communities, he might shoot somebody, he's insane, right?
Yeah.
So now people are worried, and the RCMP feels the pressure. They have to do something about this. So it's January 28th. Send another search party back to the cabin to try and find the proper tracks, and they do find them. Finally, they start tracking where he went, and they believe he's heading towards the Yukon. However, they didn't get very far, maybe a day or so into it, and then they lose the tracks again. And they're very frustrated with this because they're not figuring where this guy went, right? But one of the members of a previous search party, I don't know if it was a tracker or a trapper or what he was, a guide maybe. I didn't say the article I was reading, he just said that a previous member of the search party met up with them and told them that there was reports of gunfire a few kilometers back. So they backtrack a ways, and they realize this is again Johnson just made a fake trail, and they follow where the gunshots were, and they find a caribou that's been killed. And I don't know if I'm Johnson, right, and I'm shooting and kill a caribou, I better take everything I can off that caribou, because that's all I got out here.
Yeah.
Not just leave it so people are like, that's kind of weird. There's a caribou shot, right? So I'm assuming that Johnson took all he could off the caribou.
Right.
And then didn't bury it or whatever, but I don't know. They found the caribou, and later they could see up ahead was some smoke from a fire. They knew where Johnson was.
Caribou. You know caribous and reindeer are the same animal, it's just different place.
Or I did not know that. No.
Yeah.
So what are caribou more?
Caribou's North America, reindeer's Europe.
Really?
Yeah.
So Santa's pulled by caribou. That's cool. So we got the back of our quarters are a caribou.
Tobacco, sorry.
Our quarters, the coin.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so they're reindeer.
Yeah.
That's neat. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Didn't know that. They should make them little red noses in December then. They should.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You're right.
they should.
It's a totally great idea.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So by this point, by the time they see the smoke and the fire and the caribou, they've been trying to track this guy. It's been
Long time.
20 days since the shootout at the cabin, right? They're not having a lot of luck, but finally they see this guy.
Wow. Imagine how excited you would be, but then how stressed out, because you're like, we found him, but now we found him.
Now deal with the problem.
We gotta deal with it.
Yeah.
Ain't gonna be no shamans popping in your body for this one.
No, spoiler, there's no shamans at all in the story.
No. Spoiler alert.
So as the men are approaching Johnson, they decide to split up in groups of two. And as they're quickly coming closer, Johnson sees them and starts firing. The group fires back at Johnson, and Johnson kind of disappears into the terrain a bit, right? Of course.
Jeez.
So Millen calls out, surrender yourself, and they're firing, and there's no response, there's no counter fire, and then they wait, and there's a pause, and there's about 2-hour delay, seeing maybe he's dead, maybe he's hiding, maybe he's cold, maybe he's hurt, right? Nothing's happening. So then Millen's kind of approaches to deal with Johnson, see what's going on. Johnson sees him. Johnson fires. Millen fires. Johnson fires 3 times. 2 of them miss. 1 of them hits Millen right in the chest, in the heart this time. He's dead.
Oh.
So, when he hits them good, right? In the middle, right?
He knows where he's aiming.
Yeah.
Not only a trapper, but a sharpshooter.
So the group then retreats, right? Just figure out what to do next, and Millen keeps climbing up where he's going. It's because it kind of like when they were going one way, and then they were stopped by the other trapper or tracker and went back. He went from being on like a more level area to more of a mountainous area. So he's going up kind of the mountains area into the Yukon. That's kind of the plan he has. So they retreat after Millens gets shot to figure out what to do, and Johnson keeps climbing up. And what he's climbing is a 2.1 kilometer high mountain. So it's a pretty high mountain. I've heard other stories that say that it was like a cavern and he climbed the vertical wall up. I couldn't find any evidence of that. But he still climbed a mountain in snowshoes and a backpack, so I'll give it to him. Like,
either way, it's impressive.
It's impressive, right? I don't think he climbed a sheer cliff like I read, but he definitely climbed a mountain. So I'll give him the points for that. So this group comes back to regroup, and they recover Millen's body. They kind of hide it, protect it from nature, from animals, and they go back to Clevevac to reassess.
Oh my God!
Right? What happened? It was a little more complicated. So like they sent 2 people back to Clevevac, and then on their way there, they ran to more officers, and then went back to the site, and then they all went back to Clevevac. So in summary, they just went back to Clevevac.
Yeah.
But now with the death of Millens, this is a national story, right?
Yeah.
Now an officer is dead. This guy's on the loose. It's a big deal. So Inspector Eames then asks Ottawa if they can bring in a plane to help with the search.
Yeah. And
this has never been done before, because planes, they were pretty new in the First World War, and this is only 32.
Yeah.
So they're still pretty new, and there's, it's a growing industry in Canada to have these planes flying around, but not for this kind of purpose.
Right.
And I was reading that this was the first time they kind of started using like walkie-talkies, remote communications up north too. So this was a lot of innovation to try and catch this guy back then.
Right.
So they asked Ottawa if we can use a plane, and the issue is that there's no airports, right, and nothing up there really to use as an airport. So they have to look into this a bit. So while Ottawa is looking into what to do about the plane, Inspector Eames gets the team together. This time of 17 men. Some of them are officers, some of them are retired officers, some of them are guides, and they're heading out on February 2nd, 1932, to go and find Johnson again. The same day they leave, they get word from Ottawa: your plane has been approved. Good luck with this, right? Gonna bring in a pilot, Captain Wilfred Wap May. Wap is the nickname, so Wap May is what we're gonna call him. Wap May served in the First World War, and he's actually quite famous in Canadian war history, if people know it. He's the one who shot down the Red Baron.
Oh, cool.
Now, I don't know much about World War I, but I know that was Snoopy's rival in Peanuts.
Right.
Yeah, it was Red Baron too, so if you're a fan of Peanuts.
Big thing for Snoop.
Yep. So I bet Wap May is Snoopy's hero. Yeah. So anyway, they're bringing Wap May, and Wap May's in Fort McMurray, Alberta. Here's a flyout. So he's on his way. So this group heads out into the tundra. Within 3 days, they get to where Millens was shot and killed. Within 3 days, they get to where Millens was killed, and they find the body, and they realize that Johnson actually had come down at one point and looked at the body and went back up. And I find that very strange, but that's what the article says, that Johnson came down, looked, and then went back up. But
weird.
Yeah, weird. I was like, why? He's running. So they search the area, trying to find these paths about where, when he climbed the mountain, which way he went. And then they realized, they were worried he's going to cross into the Yukon. And their fears were rationalized, like, yes, that's where he's going. Because up there, the border is very short. So, like, you got the Northwest Territories, you got Yukon, then an angle, and after that is Alaska.
Right.
And they can't go into Alaska.
Right.
Because it's way before 9/11. They can't have that cross-border policing thing. So even when we did the one about Michael Oros, they didn't have that even then. So if he crosses into Alaska, he's a free man.
Right.
So he's going that way, and that's a concern. So Wap May gets flying up from Fort McMurray. He gets into Clevevac. I think he arrived on the 6th. He's going to leave on the 7th, but it's a blizzard, so he holds off. Leaves on the 8th, and he's heading up that way too. He ends up, because the search party finally finds out which way Johnson went on the 8th as well. It's the same day that Wap May arrives. He brings with him supplies, food, ammunition, all the things they need, because they've been out for a while. right? This is resupply, and they're ready to go back out there. But Watmay gives them the advantage to kind of see what direction Johnson went. And they can see that Johnson's gone along the river, and that he's climbed a lot of very difficult terrain to kind of get that way. So instead, what they do is, instead of going the way Johnson went, they're going to go just follow the river along and not have to deal with all that climbing.
Right.
But they can determine that Johnson has at least 2 days ahead of them where they are.
I see.
So although they've been chasing him and this and back, he has about 2 days ahead of them. This is where people, I think, really like the idea of Albert Johnson, because who he is, because it's like he's up there in the Arctic, running from authorities, right? Which is he's a badass, right? But sure. Also because he's going at such a quick speed through the Arctic, he's snowshoeing. He doesn't have dog sleds, right? He's carrying his own backpack, his own guns. They're saying he can snowshoe up to 145 kilometers in 3 days, which I can't even comprehend, like, because snowshoeing isn't very fast.
Right.
You got to take these stupid steps and these big shoes, right?
Yeah.
I did it once. I hated it. So I cannot imagine going that far in 3 days.
Right.
But it's a superhuman amount of time. So I think that's why he's so famous, because he could do this.
Right.
And he does get a lot of credit. You see people like the RCMP saying, this is incredible. He can go so far so fast as a single person up there.
You need planes to catch this guy.
Yeah, right, exactly. So when it's discovered that he's going up the river, he's going to cross into Yukon over the mountains, Eames then sends one group around the mountains to go into the Yukon and try and catch him this way, and him and the rest are going to go up the river to follow where Johnson is going. As they're going up the river, Johnson, although he is credited for being such an athlete and doing all this exertion out in the tundra, he is human. He's a mortal, and he's getting tired. And they can see from his tracks. Sometimes he kind of follows caribou tracks because they flat down the ground so much. You can see when he's kind of weaving back and forth. He's not going in a straight line as much. He's also still trying to go forward and then go backwards and send them on the wrong path. Right. Which takes up energy, takes up time, right? And also they're catching up to him every time he does that. So one night, they know they're getting close to Johnson, but they don't know how far away he is. So one night, settling down for the night, they're sleeping, and Hersey wakes up and he sees someone on the horizon about 270 meters away, so a quarter of a kilometer away, and it's Johnson. He doesn't know what Johnson looks like, so only a couple of them have actually seen this man, right? Because they've been out looking for this person, but he sees a man, thinks it's Johnson, wakes everybody up, and what was happening was Johnson had gone forward and decided to backtrack to send them the wrong way, and did not realize that they were so close. He just walked into their camp before he stopped. So they get their stuff together and go after Johnson, right? But Johnson, of course, he's seen them. He has a bit of a head start still. And he gets to an embankment. And he's climbing up this embankment. And Hayes, he's kind of the one in charge. He sees him first, and he goes down to shoot. He shoots, and he hits Johnson in the knee.
Big.
Johnson then fires back, shoots, and hits Hayes in the shoulder, or the elbow. Right? So Hayes then kind of buries himself in the snow to make sure he doesn't get hit again. And the rest of the search party show up, but Johnson's already now on the other top of the embankment. So they decide to split, and they decide to go up the embankment to try and surround Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Note to self, apparently crazy people with guns beat police.
It tends to happen a lot, it seems, yeah, but the law always gets its man, you know.
Eventually.
Yeah, right. Takes a while, but it happens. So they climb up the embankment, and they're firing at Johnson. Johnson's firing back. At one point, it's difficult to know when these events occurred because Johnson's kind of hidden when this is happening. Johnson has a pack of ammunition on his leg. Right. And it gets hit, and it blows a big chunk out of his leg. And he's bleeding, and he crawls into a bit of a dugout, and he's using that as cover. Okay. In the process, they say, from autopsy reports, in the next 10 minutes, he gets hit in the shoulder, in the side, and eventually gets hit in the spine, too. They rip straight through his guts, and that is what ends up killing him. But they don't know he's dead, right? Because they don't know where he is exactly. They're just kind of firing into where he went off the embankment. So Watmay is flying overhead, and he sees Johnson in this dugout that he was hiding in, and he, I don't know, radios down to them or tells them somehow. I think he might have radioed down or maybe made gestures with his plane to where Johnson was. So they sneak up on him, find he's already dead. Yeah. Right? But no, he's killed quite a few people, right? So what they do then, they haul him back, right? They do an autopsy, they gotta do that, they do the whole thing, and they run his fingerprints, no matches. They're trying to figure out who this guy is, so they put his picture in the newspaper, and that's the one everyone's already seen, that really awful picture of him with his face all messed up in yellow. What happened was, so like he died in pain, and he froze. So this picture they posted everywhere was his face frozen in a grimace, which is why he looks so awful in all these pictures you see. So like, oh, man. So like nobody recognizes him. And this is kind of where the mystery of Albert Johnson is, because nobody knows where he came from and nobody really identified who he was.
Right. How did he have so many bullets?
Well, there's a few things about him that are questioning, his skill set up north, his money. Why do he have so much money?
Right.
When they were doing the autopsy, they determined he has really nice teeth. He had some good dental work done.
Damn.
So, like, did he come from a family of wealth? Or, Now, another thing that comes up a lot is in this whole encounter between the RCMP from the first time King approaches the cabin to the very final gunfight with Hayes, he doesn't say anything, right? They call to him, they talk to him, they ask him to surrender, no responses. And some people think maybe Johnson was mute. But then you think before, when he talked to officer earlier, I think it was Millens, he did talk about, my name's Albert Johnson, I came up on this river. He kind of gave some explanation, so he's not a mute. Right? So that is one thing that comes up, and maybe that's why he didn't answer. He was a mute. Yeah. Another question people have is that if he had so much money, which they found when he bought the gun, they found it in his cabin, and he found some money on him too. If he had so much money, why didn't he just pay the fine for trapping without license or messing with traplines?
Right.
Because it's a thing that happens often. It's a frequent law that gets broken, right? It's a small fine, maybe a couple $100. Just don't do it.
Why
again.
didn't he just pay for the license? How about that?
Yeah, right. Like he had the money to do so.
Unless he actually is a mute and he actually only talked to the person before, he said it, but he didn't hear what the person said. That's just his initial response to say.
Yeah, maybe it's like he can read lips.
Yeah.
And then kind of mumbled his answers good enough for the officer to be like, yeah, sure, whatever.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's a possibility, right?
Yeah.
And he didn't want further interactions with authorities or whatever. He had to buy the canoe, but stuff like that, maybe they would be right. It could be he was mute.
Or he's deaf.
So he died, he was shot and killed in 1932. By 1937, they got a report from some trappers up in Dease Lake, BC, who they think they knew who Albert Johnson was. This guy's name is Albert Nelson. And Nelson and him were very similar. They had some type of gun. They were both of Scandinavian origin, about the same age, the same build. They were both kind of unfriendly, and Nelson had gone missing a few years prior. So I think maybe this was Nelson. Another theory is that Albert Johnson and Albert Nelson are not only the same person, but he has another name named John Johnson. This is a joke you had a couple episodes ago that every episode has people with the same name.
Yeah.
So this is another one.
Yeah.
Of course. His real name was, I think it's pronounced Johan Conrad Jonsson, from Scandinavia. He had spent some time in a couple prisons in the United States. And the idea here, the theory is that he was a criminal, and maybe he committed a crime, and he didn't want to do more prison time, so he went up to Northwest Territories, to Yukon, and didn't want to give his real name because people might recognize him. And he didn't want to get official documentation because people might get to put down his ID or whatever. People might recognize him then. I think maybe he was a wanted man. But there's no reason. No one was looking for Johan or John Johnson at the time. However, they tracked down John Johnson's great nephew later in the future, and they checked the DNA between him and Albert Johnson, and there's no match. So even though the stories kind of fit that maybe this guy was this ex-convict, the DNA says no, it's not him. There's another story that's found out in Nova Scotia that one of their relatives was Owen Albert Johnson, and he moved out west during the Great Depression, and he wrote a letter from BC to them in 1931 and disappeared shortly after. So it's a possibility that he was Albert Johnson. But again, the DNA match says no, that's not the case.
Right.
Another theory, his name is Sigvald Anyway from Norway. He left there in 1927. He's about 27 years old, which puts him about the same age group as Albert Johnson. He was obsessed that the authorities were looking for him because he skipped out of the fight in the First World War. Not like a draft dodger, but similar enough. Yeah. And that he had set up a cabin in BC that was like a fortress. Right, and I think he had similar guns to Albert Johnson. He made this cabin up there, and then he would disappear up. He was going towards Yukon, and he disappeared. So it's a thought this guy had the same skill set, he had the same hate for authority, he had the same kind of mindset, same guns, same everything, and he was going up to the Yukon and disappeared. So that's one of the connections. To my understanding, it hasn't been disproven. In 2007, because they were approaching the 100 years of this whole thing, right, they exhumed the body. And they took his DNA and they ran through all these tests. That's how we could say no, it's not the guy from BC or Nova Scotia. It's not this guy, not that guy, because they could run the tests, and they determined they could find some ancestors of him in Sweden. So the theory is, but these ancestors are from like the 1780s to the 1850s. So obviously not direct, but lineage is there. So the idea is Albert Johnson's family at one point immigrated from Sweden to the United States, possibly to the Midwest, because there's a big like Scandinavian population in like North Dakota.
Yeah.
Then he was born or raised in the area, and then he went up to the Yukon for some reason. That's why he had proper dental care. He had the money. Maybe he's from a wealthier family that immigrated, that kind of thing. But still, no direct connection has been made to who he was.
I see.
So the theories we have Albert Nelson, the man who was in BC, who had a bit of an attitude, but was a hunter, had similar guns, and the name is similar, and he was already going to the Yukon at the time, and he disappeared. Next one we have is Owen Albert Johnson from Nova Scotia, that was in BC and was going in 1931, but the same time period, and he disappeared. And we have Sigvald anyway, who was from Norway and moved to BC,
right,
and also disappeared at the same time. And Sigvald, he came from Sweden, worried about being chased by authorities for escaping out the war, and moved to BC. He's the one who built that cabin.
Right.
So we got. I don't have one that I really like more. They're all kind of up in the air. Is there? I know there's a lot of theories, but is there one that you kind of stick to?
Oh, I know exactly what happened, Kenton.
Oh, thank you. Which one?
Obviously, this is what happened. This character, he came from overseas, obviously.
Okay.
And he settled somewhere, like you said, South Dakota, North Dakota.
Sure. Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Okay.
And you know what he did, Kenton? He's probably actually in South Dakota, in Deadwood.
Okay.
You know what he did? He robbed a bank.
Okay.
Robbed a bank and fled
Yeah.
to Saskatchewan, where he found a dentist to do his teeth. No, I would say he probably fled to Saskatchewan, right?
Yeah.
Then he's living in the prairies, maybe Alberta too, one of the 3 prairie provinces. He fled there, got comfortable, probably spent a little too much money, maybe on his teeth. Then he started getting eyes turned to her, and then that's when he decided, I need to get even further north now, because now these people are suspicious of me. So maybe he robbed a bank in the States, tried to settle in Canada, spent a little too much money, then went further north where no one would notice him. Then he got caught there, then he was like, well, I guess I'm going back to America again. I've made a mess of this Canadian stuff.
That's actually probably a really good theory. Because on the idea, like maybe his family originated from Scandinavia.
Yeah.
To the Midwest, where there's a Scandinavian population, right? Yeah. One theory I heard is that he did commit a crime down there, because when he was in Fort McPherson, I read it in one place, that he was hiding his face a lot so people wouldn't recognize him.
Right.
So let's say he did commit a crime, and he was he's a wanted man or something, right? Yeah. So then he moved up to Canada, because he said he was in the prairies, right? He's also lied, but let's just go with that, right? And yeah, maybe he did spend money on getting his teeth fixed or whatever, right? And then changing his smile, so maybe in the photos he's smiling, he changed how his smile looks, something like that. And then he gets eyes on him or whatever. He decides to go up north, or maybe he just wants to get out of the way, because he's thinking that, oh, North Dakota's not that far from Saskatchewan, they might communicate, right?
Right.
So he goes up there, and then as things fall apart, he thinks, if there's one place I can go where the authorities might not find me, it's back to Alaska, because I can't see the communication between mainland United States and Alaska being too good in the 30s.
Right.
So I think that's probably what it is. Yeah. Because the other people who went to BC and they went up north, they have similar names, similar motives, but it's like they don't fit all the pieces, right? I think you're probably onto something there, saying he was probably from the States, committed a crime, moved to Canada, and then once either he got his identity changed or something to make him look a little bit different, or got people noticing him, he went up north.
Yeah, the only thing, like the reason that makes so much sense too is because maybe you need an ID to get the license. That's why he didn't get the license. When he went, and then the cops are showing, we just want to talk to you about this stuff. He doesn't want to talk about anything with the police, because he doesn't want people to know who he is.
Yep.
So that was his only option, because he's like, I'm going to get caught. Yep. I'm a wanted man.
Yeah, if he says, I was in the prairies, it's a big area. You could say, oh, I was in Saskatoon, I was in Calgary, I was in Edmonton. The prairies.
I was in North Dakota.
Yeah. I was in the prairies is a pretty blanket statement.
Yeah,
definitely vague. And to say you're on the wrong river, could be he doesn't know what river he's on, right? He just knows, oh, I got to take this river up to that way. And if I knew rivers better, I could say what province the Mackenzie River goes to, but I don't know my rivers. So
hey, can't know everything, can't
know everything. So I'm gonna go with you on that. I think it's like he probably was in the States and moved up. I don't believe any other theory, because they're all just too vague or piecemeal.
It's the thing that makes the most sense.
Yeah. I think if they checked the Scandinavian community, North Dakota, they'd probably find some connections there. Because there's enough of them that I'm sure there's probably a blood relative there. Yeah. I wouldn't call it solved, but it's pretty good.
It's plausible.
Plausible.
Well, thank you, Kenton. That was great.
It was a long one. I know the ending with all the theories is a little bit tough. I'm sure our new editor, producer will make it look great.
Yes.
Yes. Everyone wants to talk about that one. I still not my favorite story. I didn't like it too much, but
I liked it.
yeah,
Not as good as the last one.
It's a good one. The issue with it is like it's a long story, and the mystery is just who is it?
Yeah, right.
Right? It's not
It's kind of a cop out of a mystery.
Yeah, right. I feel the same way. And at this point, 100 years into it, why solve it? Right? Like, oh, we found his name is Bobby Smith.
Right.
What is it? Doesn't change anything, right?
Yeah, it's like what pencil did Abraham Lincoln use?
Yeah.
It's a mystery.
Yeah, right. It's a good story. It's lots of questions at the end, but it doesn't solve anything. You actually solve the mystery. So that's why I didn't want to include it. But for our Patreon subscribers, Josh and others,
Josh and friends.
yeah, Josh and friends, that's why we did this story.
That's what we should call our Patreon subscribers.
Josh
and friends.
As always, my name is Kent DeYoung. I'm sitting here with my co-host Dylan Fairman. We want to give thanks to our new producer Christina. It's been Unsolved Canadian Mysteries.